we're on. So, Nathalie Man, welcome to the
Yes.
Meaning Creators. You're going to tell us about yourself, but I'll just give a little bit of an introduction from what I know, which is that you are a poet, but a
Yes.
bit of a different kind of poet in the sense that your poems don't only go on paper in a book or other places, they go in very public places, which is on the walls of cities that you're in, namely Bordeaux, where you live. So tell us first who you are, where you come from, where you were born and raised, and then we'll jump into the poetry part, which is really interesting, exciting, and really a beautiful thing.
Okay, so my name is Nathalie Man. My dad is from Hong Kong, so he left China because of Mao, because my grandfather was from the Kuomintang, and that's why they left China and they came and arrived in Hong Kong. And he always complained that he was like less than the British, because British from the Commonwealth, so less than the British. So it was for him very, very hard. That hard that he married a woman in France to become French, and then won the green card at the lottery and became American. Yeah. So anyways, so that's my dad. Then my mom is Spanish. She's from the north of Spain. Cantabria is the region, and Santander is the main capital. But she was born and raised in a little village. Same thing. I mean, she lived. Her family lived also the Spanish War, right? We know so much. So right now we're still looking for some people who disappeared in our family and trying to get some money to open, those graves and identify the bones and put them into real graves. Anyways, so that's the kind of the story. And they met in Switzerland in a train because my mother wanted my father badly. I was born in Lyon. Lyon, it's a city in kind of southeast, and I'm kind of not really south, but somehow southeast of France. And so I've always, so far as I can remember, I've always written because I really love that. Why? Because also I was an only child, and I was getting bored. I was bored a lot of the time, my mother was working, my dad left because he realized, oh, why do I have to be a father? I made a kid, but I don't want to pay anything. I just want to have sex with other women, and I'm just going to not stay home. So he wasn't there. Had businesses in Los Angeles, in Monterey Park, had a travel agency called Nathalie, by the way. I still have the card, and we'll show it to you later. And raised with my mom, and things were pretty difficult because my mom was earning very little. She used to wash in like old people's houses, so have little money. Then sometimes she would do some translation from French to Spanish, and then she would try to be a teacher, but like she didn't pass the contest to get to be integrated in the national education system. So it's kind of difficult. So writing for me was a way to escape from the reality I had, because I was living in the projects where, cars were burning, there were drug addicts everywhere. And to be honest,
and this is in Lyon?
This is in Lyon, really.
Okay.
There are projects in France, in Lyon especially. Sure. And and also, look, I was really different. Like I was in a good school because my mother took me in another school, not in the neighborhood, because I was bilingual in Spanish. I could go to an international school, which was public. But most of the children were rich people. Some of them were like me, right? Like sons of immigrants, but mainly, So there were people from everywhere, but still, I felt I was Chinese and I didn't want to be Chinese. I wanted to be white. So that was difficult. And I think all this kind of identity thing, for me, it's really important now. It's taking, how I suffer so much of like thinking, I'm not in the criteria of beauty, and and why do I have this black hair and the black eyes, and I want to be fucking white, and I want to be blonde with blue eyes, and I want to be taller than I am, and something like that. So it's a big issue because, I had anorexia when I was 11. So this kind of things really, it was, voilà. So this is who I am. I then from Lyon, we lived in Spain for a while with my mom, because she was had this kind of, we call it in France, le mal du pays. Meaning, le mal du pays is like you're sick because you miss your country. You're sick because you miss this country, right? And so we came back to her country, to Spain, and I realized I was really Catholic, and I realized my grandmother didn't accept me because I was not baptized, not Catholic. Also, my trainer, who was a because I was doing basketball, I was playing basketball, I love basketball, and the guy who came to be my coach. He was from the USA, and he was black, and he was the only black guy in Santander. And so my grandmother said he was sale, which dirty, like he was dirty. I was I was amazed of not knowing my grandmother. 11 years I was with her, and I didn't realize she was racist. So that was issues like that. After Spain, we came here in Bordeaux. I was 12, and after that, I 18, I wanted to get the fuck out of here because I like this town, it's little. So, I went to Paris, then I went to Grenoble, I did political science studies. I went to Singapore, Beijing, I came back to Lyon, I went to Berlin, and then I lived again in Paris. I was working there as a journalist and as kind of things. So I was working also in restaurants, and I was a seller, and I was working in museums, translator, guide tour, and then I came back to Bordeaux broke because I had no money, and it was before Me Too. And my last director, my hierarchy at the museum I was working in Paris. I wanted to give me another opportunity because I had a political science degree, a diploma, right, master degree, right. And so why was I really only at the entrance of the museum? Because I said because I was writing, I needed time to write, so I didn't want to have a full-time job. I want a little job with little that would take little space in my brain. And that's it. And so I said, I want to find you something. Well, you're going to be my secretary. You're going to earn like five times more. I'm just going to ask you to have sex with me. And I'm like, man, you're the age of my dad. Okay. This is never going to happen. Yes, it happened like that, for real. I had an interview recently. I didn't give the name. Of course, I will never give the name, but this is what really happened. And I was so upset that I tell you, okay, I'm going to go back home with my mom. And I went to her place because I was so disgusted. I was like, come on. I am fucking brilliant, and some guy is gonna ask me to be the secretary and have sex with this guy. But come on, I will never do this. Like never, this would never happen.
Wow.
So
and you didn't think about finding some recourse, like some kind of complaint or.
No, the thing is, I was also sick of Paris. Paris was taking so much energy out of me. It was taking more than it was giving me, and I know my life was a mess, and I thought, okay, well, he was not a mean person. Like he was just saying, well, I'm not asking, I'm not gonna be annoying you. We're gonna have sex once, twice, and I'm like, never. And I thought, I'm just gonna quit and that's it. And then 2 months ago, I told the director's adjointe, like and I told her why I left because she didn't know. And then so she just said, okay, now it doesn't surprise me. He was an asshole. So, voilà.
It sounds like an asshole thing to do, or worse than that.
Yes, it is, yeah.
But let's pause and talk about poetry and writing.
Yes.
And where in all of this very active, full life did you find yourself connecting with words and with poems in particular? How did it start?
I started when I was 7. It was more kind of little novels, right? Little stories I was writing about, kid problems, the concept of beauty, the concept of multiculturalism. Really, I was really into that when I was 7. I still have the books, little stories, I mean. But I really started, I think, when I was 11, because maybe that depression I had, maybe that anorexia I had, I had to dive into myself, right? And the only thing I had were words, but tiny words. Like I was so exhausted, I couldn't write so much because I was exhausted. I don't have energy. And so poetry was something like, it was kind of the liquor, right? I mean, it's not wine, it's not beer, it's really the liquor of, And so
that's a beautiful metaphor, actually.
Yeah, and so the first time I remember, because I sent it to a contest, it was about flying. It was a metaphysical meaning. But then I won the prize, blah, blah, and then who wanted to publish me were aviators from here, the region, in their magazine, because they took it as first degree, right? To fly, right? And I realized, man, I'm 12. Those guys want my poems. They read something I didn't write, because for me it was metaphysical. It was obvious for them, no. And then they asked me more poems, like years after they asked me poems about flying and stuff. Well, I was not in the mood after that. I was like, I don't care about flying, But they offered me and so yeah, that's how I connected first with, I think, this kind of depression, I had, and that was for me the way of saying the things without getting to it, because I was exhausted, and to go straight to the point. And then helped me, I think it helped me in the beginning, helped me to reconnect with myself, and to say things that matter to me, and to other people. And of course I didn't write for myself. I always wrote for somebody. I wanted people to read me. I always sent it to contests, to magazines. In my high school, everybody was reading me. It was very important for me. The reader was as important as me writing.
But how did you even come to the idea when you're 7 or 10 or 11, whatever age you were, how do you even come to the idea of writing a poem? I mean, were you reading poetry at the time? Were you
So much, so fucking much, of course. I mean, the first book,
so you're 7 years old reading poetry.
Yeah, I mean, come on, we had this Prévert. Everybody had Prévert, paroles.
That's very French. I can tell you almost with 100% accuracy that 7-year-olds in America, by and large, are not reading poetry, and definitely not Jacques Prévert.
Well, I did. I love it. And my favorite poem.
It's amazing.
My favorite poem, you know what it was? It was about war, and I wrote it in the paper. It was like the woman is doing like she's like a saw, like doing like I could put there's doing a sweater with wool, like she's
knitting, yeah.
What?
Knitting,
and
yeah.
and the dad is, I don't know what he's doing, and the son goes to the war, and she's what I like is about politics, because it was, I don't know why it was my favorite poem at the time. It was like, wow, what's happening in this family? I mean, like, there's kind of, everything looks very calm, but actually it's very tragic. And that's what I like about it. It's like when I was a kid, I really loved the subtext of it, It's like, because I was feeling that my life, my reality had so much subtext, especially politically, because, like I said, my mother has a Spanish family, and my Spanish family has always had subtext in their conversations because of the Spanish War and Frankism.
And what was the subtext?
The subtext was nothing happened. No, I'm kidding. No, the reality was nothing happened, and the subtext was, we are fucking angry. Okay, some are left wing, some are right wing. We hate each other. If we are going to war again, we'll kill each other, but let's not talk about it. Yeah, it was something like that,
Which, I mean, it's such an interesting idea, because today in the US, I don't live in the US anymore, but you can see that kind of horrible acidic tension between left and right, even among families, where families they can't speak about certain topics because there's so much anger. There's so much hatred. And so what it does is it doesn't go away. It goes underground. It's just because we don't talk about it doesn't mean it's not there. It's always there.
Deep. Yes. We don't talk anymore. I can't talk to my grandmother anymore because I realized he was racist and intolerant to agnosticism, atheism. She just wanted Catholic people, and even not Muslim, really, not Jewish, really. So that for me was I couldn't accept. Maybe I haven't understood her so much. I've been writing about her, so I finished a book about her and my mom, how they raised as women during Franco. Maybe it was a period of time where they were alienated, and they were built in that way, shaped in that way that they couldn't think something differently. Well, my mom now is absolutely different. Like she's so tolerant, and she's so a free woman. But for my grandmother to be free, maybe it was difficult. She was free enough to allow all the six children she had, mainly women, to go to university. Wow, wow, she was alone too. My grandfather left also, like all the men in my family left. So but I agree with you. It goes underground, and it's the same in France right now. I mean, the left wing and the right wing, we're in war. I mean, 2022 is the presidential elections. Don't worry, we're fighting for it. It's like, we know it's there.
So you started writing poetry when you're very young.
Yeah.
7 or maybe even earlier, and that was something you did continuously all through your life. You're writing some form of poetry or other kind of expression. Literary expression?
I did. I'm not going to say it was every day, because it was not every day, but I did. It's something I never stopped. I met this guy when I was 20, and I was fully in love with him. I mean, I had, I didn't go to university for that year because I was so into him. So I was with him all the time. And I'm saying that because I stopped writing because I was waiting for him all the time. He was my reason to leave or something. And all my energy focused on that man. And I remember he said at some point, I love when you were writing, you're not writing anymore. I mean, I think you're getting silly with me. And I realized, man, this is something I really like. He's right, and then I started writing, and with him, I think he gave me this. Now I'm writing a lot of erotic poetry, and thanks to him, because sex was amazing, I started writing erotic poems, and I thank him so much. Now I don't see him anymore because if I see him, it will be impossible to get away from him. But it was really exciting. So yeah, even though when I was trying to stop, somebody would say, I love when you were writing because you were reading it to university, to people, to blah blah blah, and now you're not doing it, and it was something that gave you a shape, and now I feel like you're invisible. I'm not saying that, but you know what I mean. It's just
sure.
you become a blank page, and people don't want that. They want you to be written.
I think people who identify as writers, they feel like, maybe with all artists, but with writers, it's like you're saying, it gives the shape to their life. It really, it defines who we are in a way that's not always healthy, because when it's not going well, or when you're not being read, or whatever the particular issue might be, you feel like your whole life is crumbling when it's actually not. And it's
absolutely.
But a problem.
Let me happen to you. I have a question, because I absolutely agree with you. So, recently I met a guy, and I fell in love with that guy. And he said, oh, well, I think I don't like what you're writing. I think it's too erotical for me. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is me. My writing is me. You cannot tell me you don't like my writing, because this is fucking me. Okay. But then 2 weeks later, I said to a friend, I would give my entire career to live this love story. I don't give a fuck about writing. I want to stop writing. I want to be this kind of slave dog. I'm not kidding, really. And I don't understand why I have these extreme moments, when I would be ready to throw everything in the river, and I don't give a fuck now. I'm gonna do something else. But then it catches me again,
I think because, well, I don't think that, I think that people who are that way tend towards the arts such as writing, and especially writing, because it does require everything. It requires a complete commitment. If you're going to be a serious writer, you have to be ready to just be out there forever and risking it all and having no sense that anyone's actually going to give a shit ever. And you just have to keep going and going and going and going. And you get to a point where you start to asking yourself, wait a second, am I actually crazy? And then you answer by saying, I don't know, but it doesn't really matter because I don't want to do anything else.
That's the thing. I've tried my whole life. People are like, oh, you're 33. Don't you want to settle down? Of course I want to fucking settle down. Of course I want a house. I want a swimming pool. I want a man. I want kids. I want dogs. I want everything. Just can't, because I've tried for 4 years in Paris to have jobs that were that suit with my diploma. Political science degree, master degree. And to be honest, I quit every fucking job I had because it was too much for me. I didn't thought about quitting. It's just one day I go to the office and I'm saying, well, man, I'm quitting. I'm just tired of it. I just couldn't stand because it was taking all my energy and I couldn't write properly.
Yeah.
My mind was busy.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. That's the decision that we all have to make. But what the interesting thing is that I think that's a decision everybody has to make in some fashion. If they're trying to do something that's really connected to their heart or their soul, even entrepreneurs, even business people, you look at them and we all kind of have this fantasy like, oh, they just went and made money, but it's actually not like that. They were also on that path where they're like, I have to do this and I'm willing to risk things. Yeah, risk it all and just keep doing it over and over and over. And I think that's a kind of feeling of being alive that I was just reading this poem by Don Marquis or Marquis. I don't know. It was a poet who wrote a newspaper column. He wrote the poem in the newspaper every week, which in America is like a weird idea. And the poem was, it's from the perspective of a cockroach who believes he's a free verse poet whose soul has been transmogrified into the body of a cockroach. And he writes a poem about a moth, that he watches a moth fly into a flame. And he's saying, why does the moth keep flying into the flame? And his answer is because that one moment of kind of bursting into flame, for the moth, it's worth everything. You know, and I think there's something in that idea. I mean, it's very extreme. It's like those guys who jump off mountains
I'm
with a
thinking about the
wingsuit.
poem. I'm thinking about the poem of Peitao that I really like. He's a kind of, he's a superstar. This guy, Peitao, and translated by Elliot Weinberger.
Okay,
And,
I don't know the poem. Poet.
Well, it's about work, and I really like. I don't know if I'm gonna find it, but what you're saying, exactly what you're saying, that this kind of commitment and sacrifice you have to make, or the other thing. I mean, if you do something you don't want to do, then you lose yourself, right? You're a Nico or something. And man, I don't know if I'm gonna find this because I always get. Maybe I have to go down. Okay, wait. I think it's Work. The name Work 187. 187. So it's related to English too. So it says something like that. It says, work, competing with its shadow, a bird becomes echo. Not unexpectedly, you choosing a profession in the storm, or the world inside Zeppelin's ancient memories thorn. Mother opening windows like some hero in an old book, spreads autumn's fan open, dazzling the eyes. You and filial son, whipping glass clean with white cloud, whipping the self in glass clean. It's something, I don't know, well, but it's kind of this kind of.
Yeah. I'll post it in the interview so people can read it. So tell me how did you get to the point where you started to put the poems on walls? And for people who will post photos, but so people understand, Nathalie posts these poems and big white sheets that are kind of wheat pasted onto a wall around the city. Yes. And it's not something you see very often or at all. I don't think I've ever actually seen that in a city. So how did you get to that point where that's what you're doing? And tell us exactly what it is you're doing. Like, how often do you put them up, and where do the poems come from? And give the whole background to that.
Okay. I don't think I'm the only one, because there is a Emancipazione della Poesia, is something Italian. They paste poems. It's an A4, so it's like the paper like this, and they put it, just this paper, and they put it on Belleville. I saw it later after starting pasting myself, but apparently it's older than I am. But actually, I am kind of, apparently in Paris at least, people say I'm the only one to make it that way. I mean, because those guys are pasting in Italian. You go to Paris and you paste an Italian poem. Come on, people are French. Like, I don't understand this. I don't understand. Okay, so anyway, I started in 2013. I was living in Paris and I was poor. And I was angry. There was kind of rage. There was a lot of rage, anger, a bit of desperation, a lot of empathy. I'm explaining to you. I have been invited when I was in Paris to meetings where all the old people, bourgeois, would come and listen to your poems, because I was already published in little reviews, right? And this circle of poetry is very little, and there are a lot of old people, and once in a while some young guys who just want to be the future Rimbaud, and they're trying to get to those old people, say, hey, you have to try, to publish me, and I will do whatever, and I'm a cool man, and in 2 years I'm going to be famous. Yeah. And so I was tired of this. This is not me, and I was bored. And when I'm bored. I cannot think strategically. Like, people are sleeping when I'm reading my poems. They're old. I'm like, I'm fucking young. No, I want life. So I decided to go in the streets, because I was poor. I had no money, really. I would go down and out in Paris. I would read the walls. The thing which was were free was reading the walls, really. And people were writing so much stuff. Something they wrote that I really liked, and I put it on my room. I'm going to take the picture and so you can see it. It's in my door. And it was this thing. And it says, it's a picture I took, and I really like it. It's in the door of my room. When people come to my room, it's called Monsieur pas travail au. Says, man have no job, and and this is a number. So it says I have no job. Please call me. Right. I can do whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And I realized this is Are you here? Because it bugged a bit.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Okay. So for me, I realized, well, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Something which is a straight message to people.
Yeah.
It says the most simple thing. I
Yeah.
am looking for a job, but it says it in a nice way. Man, no job at 06, whatever number, telephone number. Then there was
Did you ever call the number?
No, I didn't. Maybe I should have. And, but and then other stuff like what I used to love was like reading something, taking a picture, and then confuse the sentence. So the sentence was men, dogs, or barking. But men like plural, men, exclamation points, dogs are barking. And I thought, man, I thought something like, or no, it was not. It was silence. No, it was silence! Exclamation point. Dogs are barking. And I when I slept over that sentence, I imagined it like this: silence! Exclamation point. Men are barking. And men are barking for me was more interesting than dogs are barking, because you don't expect men to be barking. Or I think this is the good verb, right? The woof woof woof. That's the barking thing.
Yeah.
And so that's how it started. Okay. And then I used to see a man who was a homeless guy who was always in the same spot, taking care of himself, washing his teeth, brushing his hair, and kind of trying to be decent, which is really rare. And that's it. I wrote my first poem 2013 about this homeless man, and I wanted to place that poem big in the spot where he was sitting. There was no walls available, so I went somewhere else where I thought it was more okay. There was a lot of graffiti, and for a whole year I posted poems about homeless and poverty and stuff without signing them. I was not signing them, because what I was interested in was to see if people were gonna change my poem. Because at the time I was trying to find some money, and I realized, well, maybe I could call my teachers from university and ask them if I can do a thesis, a PhD, right? And so I asked for a scholarship that I didn't have, right? They didn't give it to me. But in order to have the scholarship, I had to set up a project, and my project was, I'm going to paste in the cities in Europe, in the language of the cities, right? In German, in Germany; in France, in France; in Italian, in Italy, whatever. I don't remember where exactly. I think it was Germany, France, and some, maybe Spain. And I'm gonna see if people change the poem, because I want to verify the theory of textual cooperation by Umberto Eco. He says the text is not finished until the reader, beholds it. And so, what does it mean? I say, I'm gonna do something very literal, very first degree. I mean, are they gonna change it like this? Can I see it? Can I see they're gonna change verse? They're gonna modify. And it happened. Well, the first night, so I pasted, and then the day after there was a comment that said, "Thank you for this little story. A storm started in me, blah blah blah." Brigitte, that was the name of that girl. And then I started placing poems to Brigitte. So
wow,
yeah,
that's beautiful.
This is how it started, really.
Yeah.
And because the people who working in Paris or the people who are cleaning the streets, because they respected my work and never took it off, like never. And so I realized, wow, I can continue because it's okay, And I met a guy from the cult.
That's an amazing point. I just want to pause on the fact that they didn't take it down. Nobody defaced your work. The people who were, and the fact that the people cleaning streets didn't take it down. It's not that it's not so interesting because they, it's that they recognized something was happening there. It's that they paid attention to something. They saw what it was. They didn't see it as garbage or as graffiti or something that shouldn't be there. They saw it as something that should be there, and so they left it there, which is incredible. I mean, it's so... 4
years, the maximum. 4 fucking years.
That's amazing.
Until the rain took it off. Because they even painted the wall. They painted the wall, and I have pictures. They painted around my poem.
That's incredible. I think that's something, again, I don't want to play on cliches about the differences between Europe and other places, but I do think that it says a lot that there's that kind of sensitivity to what someone's doing, even if they don't necessarily understand it, and certainly they don't know who or what it is because it was anonymous, and still they kept it, which is amazing. So, okay.
Yeah, I thanked them. Like I had my first website and I said, the first sentence was, thank you so much. You know, then I went to City Hall because I had a meeting for something else, for another project, and and the guy was saying, "Oh, you're a poet. You should do like this person that pays big poems in the neighborhood." And I'm like, who? Which poem? And then I realized it was me. He's like, this is me. It's my poem. I did it. And he's like, okay, well, nice, blah blah. It's like, why are they not taking them off? And he says, in my district, people who are cleaning in the cities, the streets, can decide if it's contemporary art. And if they decide it's contemporary art because it's their choice and responsibility, then they can keep it.
That is.
But not everywhere.
That is crazy.
Yes.
That is a crazy idea.
Yeah.
So these guys who are cleaning the streets are art curators in that district.
Well, they in the 90s district, they can appreciate if it's for them a piece of art. And if it's for them a piece of art, they can keep it that way.
Right. So they're the one making the actual decision. It's like the street is the museum. They're the curator. They decide if it stays or if it goes, which it's mind-blowing.
It is.
It really is crazy and amazing and great to hear. That's awesome. So you're putting up these poems, you're putting up on the wall. You're starting to find that people are noticing them. Are you hearing in other ways from people, aside from people who are writing stuff on the poems? Are you hearing back from people you know who saw them, is there a dialogue that starts to happen between you? How do you know what kind of reception there is? Because they're anonymous, they're on public place. How do you know what's happening with them?
Well, the thing is, because I was anonymous, it was difficult for them to find me. Then I started a website 1 year later, and I put like the poems written in my website, and then so they could find me. If they put the poem on Google entirely, and then they could find maybe but it took them a while. I started receiving emails, people saying, "Thank you so much. I've been looking for you for 6 months, 8 months. I have them because I was writing a book." Wait a second, I just gonna, because I have it here. So wait. Yeah, so that's my Bible. It's my Bible with all the work I did until 2017. So it's like, I don't know, like 1,000 pages. No, 500 pages. Sorry, 500 pages. And so I put all the emails I received, and so I'm going to try to find you the first, maybe the first email, because it was really moving. People have been looking for you so much, and they want to thank you, Anyways, that's it. So this is how it started. And I just wanted to maybe show you pictures of, I don't know if you can see, this is a picture, the first poem I wrote, and then the comment.
Yeah, so if people are listening, it's a photo of a poem, and someone has actually handwritten on the poem on the wall their response.
Yeah. So I don't know now because I haven't read it for a long time, but there's something like a lady, I think it was a student, who has been looking for me for a year, and she wants to thank me and to know more about poetry, like my poems. Why? That's it. It's Laura M. It's in November, the 11th of November, 2014. So it's a year and a lot after. I started in August 2013, so a year and plus month, right? And she's like little retour, but like little comment by a reader of the streets, right? And she says, "Look, I've read your poems in that wall where in next to this bookshop in the 18th district, and I always take the streets because I really want to read your poem every time I'm taking the streets to go to the grocery store." She says, "She says grocery store, but she says like grocery store for students, like okay." and she says, "Thank you so much for your words to make this street more beautiful and my grocery, my shopping," you know. And then and so that's it, you know. But it's cool because so that's, you know, that's a little thing. But then the other mails are like, "I've been looking for you, blah blah," and or later, you know, like 1 year later, the 1st of January 2015, that same lady tells me, "How am I doing?" She has been thinking about me. She has been reading the last poem I wrote, and she says, "I really like this verse. Déjà je t'aime d'odeur. I already like you by taste," or something like that. "And I hope your year's gonna be great and like full of surprises," right? So yeah, I started a dialogue with my readers, but it was mainly because they were trying to find me. Then lately I've been more public, and Instagram arrived. See, there was not Instagram at the time, or I maybe I didn't have a smartphone also, but it's been maybe a year and I have Instagram, something like that, or two. I don't really know how to use it, but now that I use it, people are sending me more messages. And now that I also have a hashtag, because I didn't want to put hashtags or anything. So I put NM, that was NM, that's all. But so you have to go put the poem in the Google to find it in my website. But sometimes I didn't put the poem in the website. So NM
what's your Instagram handle? What's your name?
NM. I will write it for you if you want.
Okay, we'll put it in the notes. But let's talk a little bit before about the content of the poems. How do you describe them? How do you think about what you're writing about? And where do the ideas come from? Where do the senses come from? The words come from? And do you have, are there some poems that you say, okay, this is a poem for a wall, and some poems you say, no, this poem is going to be for somewhere else, a book or for something else? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, okay. I started writing for the street in 2013, when I was thinking about poetry in the streets. Of course, the poems I pasted were written for the streets, and they were talking about people living in the streets. So, like I said, especially homeless people, right? Then this is the first wave. Second wave is 2016. Okay, we are living here in France something which was very important for my generation, called Nuit debout, night stand up. You know, night get up, or get up night, or stand up night, right? It was Place de la République. It was a huge thing with a lot of young people, and that gave me so much energy. And I started political poems, right, about but like, of course it's a poem, so it's not obvious, but it's about, you know, this issues, like, for example, this minister saying that, you know, if somebody behaves well, we can take him the French nationality off. Something which I do not agree. You don't do this. This was done when the Nazis. So you don't do this. And are you here? Because it bugged again.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, okay. And so this is the second wave, right? Again, poems that I thought I wrote for the streets. This second wave, poems were shorter, 4-5 verse maximum. This is the best. It's the best. Why? Because you can make it very big. People can see it. It's great. But you know, then of course I listen only to what I really want to write. So then there was a third wave, which was more about political, but more about maybe the cities I know. It's like the way you live in the city, the way the city influences you and stuff like that. Those poems were a bit longer, 10 verse, 12 verse, and they were not specially meant to be pasted on the streets, but I decided to do it because my ex-boyfriend said, you should put this on the poem. And I actually in the streets, and I said, yes, you're right. So I, you know, didn't have really, until then, poems I wouldn't paste. No, I didn't have. Now, maybe this last wave, I have many poems I cannot paste. They're too fucking long, but they have to be long because there are things that have to be said. So there was a fourth wave, which was about racism, multiculturalism, blah blah. Let's say something like that, huh? And also this feeling of loss and lonely, like being strange, all this strange feeling. So that was something more maybe personal, and I didn't really want to paste. And in my last wave, which is my wave right now, it was erotical. And I decided that was also political, erotical. I'm saying desire is important. Desire has to be everywhere. But like real desire, not like commercial desire, not like, fucking alienated desire somebody's giving to you, no, but your desire and desire of life, desire of whatever. And so I've been doing this lately, and I have hesitated on some poems that I thought maybe they could be a bit obvious, They're third sense, double sense, but come on. But then I said, well, whatever, I'm doing it. And of course, yeah, some old man would take them off because it was kind of obvious, It's kind of poem which says, épuisement d'un sentiment amoureux partant de Corona, which it relates to the book of Perec, which says épuisement des lieux parisiens. Épuisement, which means like you go through something until the end, throughout. And so,
which Perec was it?
Perec, c'est épuisement. Alors c'est des trucs de lieux parisiens, non? C'est épuisement.
That's the title of the book.
Ouais. Épuisement d'un lieu parisien. Voilà. Okay. Tentative d'épuisement, c'est ça. Tentative d'épuisement d'un lieu parisien. And so I because I had to also go through this love that was not working, and for me it was not reciprocal. And so the poem was something like I will something like take care of the last tree of the forest, and I will suck the whatever thing. So old man didn't like it at all. Like I started praising, and somebody was like, oh, how can you be so obscene? And I'm like, this is not fucking obscene, it's about the forest. If you don't like forest, you're really has been, because now it's ecology, man. I was kidding, but of course. So yeah, voilà. So this is like the last wave. My last wave is more erotical, but maybe I'm starting a new wave, which is again about poverty, but like more like fights, and like, okay, now my city is turned left wing, so I feel more stronger, and I'm like, okay, now we're talking about this people, those women who have kids and or working, and nobody helps them, and it's difficult for them, and I'm trying to have like some okay, I want to be really in the put myself in the place of somebody else. I already did this, but I'm doing it again and again with maybe more political issues again, but that have to be also personal, of course. It's kind of this kind of, yeah.
So that's where you are now. You're doing the walls in Paris, and it's in this kind of new. Oh, you're now in Bordeaux.
I live in Bordeaux, but I'll go very often to Paris, once a month at least. Gotcha. So I paste in Paris and Bordeaux.
And why?
For the moment.
Why Bordeaux?
Because, like I said, in 2015, when I left this museum in this Harris, this Weinstein. No, I'm kidding. I came to my mom's place, and then I stayed here because here life is more laid back and smooth. Yeah. I have to say. And
I mean, it's a beautiful. I lived in Bordeaux for it was about 9 months or maybe a year. I don't remember.
Really? When?
Yeah, that would have been in 2009, 2010.
Wow. Okay.
I was writing my first novel. I was starting, and still writing it. And I went there to get away from everything that I knew here. Jason, a mutual friend of ours, connected me with somebody, and I stayed there, and it was amazing. I mean, it's really, I think most French cities that I've experienced are pretty incredible. I mean, coming from, other cities around the world, I found these classic French cities and European cities in general, but there was something special about Bordeaux that I really felt.
I like it. With. It's smooth and laid back, and
yeah.
I always find support here and some love and affection. So I like it.
Yeah. There's something, because it's small. It's not a big city, and
no,
you feel that, and then it's a good thing. You feel it in a good way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. By the way, somebody pasted for me in South Africa, in Cape Town.
Oh, really? I was going to ask if that ever happens. People post in other places.
They asked me to send them my poems by post office, and they paste them for me.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
It's been fascinating and great. I'm definitely, if you, how much of your work is in English? If I saw on your website, there is one poem in English?
Nothing, none.
Oh,
Like just
nothing.
one poem in
Not the
my
one.
website. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you have more translated, we would love to read them and to hear them and to see them on our walls, or maybe we'll just put them up in French and let people do their
No, I
best.
would pay the translator. I would definitely pay a translator. I want that. I want that in my life. It will happen. Where are you
So
now? Are you in Israel?
I'm in Israel. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Outside of Tel
Lockdown?
Aviv. Yes. Yeah. We're in lockdown. Yeah. Again.
Okay.
But
We're not.
yeah, I hope you don't go into it.
Yeah, fingers
But it
crossed. We
seems
don't
like it
want
might
that.
be heading in that direction. But
Oh
we'll see.
fuck! This is awful.
We'll
Yeah.
see. But
Yeah.
Natalie, thank you so, so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
I hope we
Yeah.
continue conversations, because I love what you're doing. You're an amazing person, and
Thank you.
it's great. I
You too.
really, really admire the courage that it takes to put something as personal and intimate as a poem out on a wall. It's like taking a little beautiful piece of crystal, something fragile, and putting it in the middle of a
Mhm.
busy street and hoping for the
Mhm.
best and that it won't be crushed and ruined. And what I think you've shown is that it doesn't necessarily get crushed. It doesn't get
No.
ruined.
No.
And it's the
Right.
opposite. I mean,
Yeah.
what you said about the, the so-called street curators preserving your work is really an inspiring thing. And I think that's something we should all bear in mind, because it's very easy to make a judgment about what will happen, especially when we think of a certain person and what they will do and how they will react, and to make that assumption, but we don't really know. And I think that's the beauty of poetry, is that it reveals what's the interior of our lives, and the interior of the lives of those street cleaners who are respecting this beautiful work on a wall and
They are.
considering it art. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's an amazing thing. So thank you for your time. I think people
Thank
are
you
going
so
to find
much. I
this
like
really
it so much.
interesting, and yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk, and
I'll suggest it
hopefully,
tomorrow.
yes, great. And maybe we will bump into each other once after coronavirus in
Sure.
Bordeaux or in Israel,
Sure.
or who knows.
Israel or Bordeaux. Definitely.
Perfect. Great.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you, Natalie.
Bye.
Bye.